International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority and supported by GOIL and Agricultural Development Bank.
Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. Now, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, countries such as Ghana, that used to depend heavily on imports, have had to shift from the overdependence of imports to local manufacturing in order to meet the demand of items that are necessary during this period. Now, the fact that local manufacturing is encouraged during this period does not mean that we can go ahead and produce anything and sell on the market. Now, the Ghana Standards Authority is a government agency responsible to ensure that all items either produced locally or imported meet required standards. On today's edition of International Trade Focus, we want to find out whether local manufacturers are guided by government agencies such as Ghana Standards Authority that are responsible to ensure that items produced locally or exported meet required standards. Before we proceed, we'd like to say special thanks to the sponsors of this program. International Trade Focus is brought to you by Ghana Free Zones Authority. They say sharing good fortunes, and supported by GOIL, Good Energy, ADB, Truly, Agric, and more. International Trade Focus is also supported by Pejase Valley Resort. My name is Anaspio. Stay tuned. Our in-depth segment today comes to you from the premises of the Ghana Standards Authority. Our guest for today, the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview. Our guest for today is very optimistic about this whole coronavirus pandemic. He says Ghana should look on the brighter side in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our guest for today is the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodu. We are coming to find out from him the role his outfit is playing in Ghana's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Prof, thank you once again for taking time off your very busy schedule to talk to us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
What are you doing? What have you been up to? What has the Ghana Standards Authority been up to? I mean, before we go any further, what have you been up to in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think the GSA, like all other state agencies, in fact, all other businesses, were taken by surprise by the COVID-19. And by the time the country eventually went on the partial lockdown, our business, as in the number of clients who come in and the amount of money we receive, had fallen. Indeed, in our case, more than 90% of our revenue had gone. And you immediately wake up and realize that it's a new world. So what are you going to do? We have to make sure the ports are still working. We have to make sure that there is trade, logistics are happening. And you have to keep on enforcing, because unfortunately, in the time of crisis, there'll be shortages. When there are shortages, you need to ensure that the little that comes in meets the required standards and quality. Because if a problem occurs, the solution will be very, very far away. So instead of us slowing down, rather, we've had to double and sometimes treble our work, coming in overnight, weekends, and other things. But it's why we are a state agency, and it's what we have to do to ensure that, one, we remain in business, and two, the country keeps moving.
Right, so this interview will be centered around the COVID-19 pandemic and your role in combating it. Let's talk about face masks. I mean, I've seen a beautiful trend. I think it's beautiful, but I do not know the technicalities. That's why we are here today. Face mask, I mean, it's been prescribed that we should use is it N95?
N95 medical face mask, yes?
Yes, that is what the World Health Organization recommends.
For medical personnel.
For medical personnel, okay. Then, what we are producing locally, is it going to protect us? The face mask that we are producing locally with African print and all of that, is it going to protect us?
I mean, I'm glad we are focusing on face masks, because it's one of those incredibly interesting things that have emerged, at least for us in Ghana and Africa. We normally don't wear them. I mean, Thailand, China, you see them wearing them because of the air pollution. When the pandemic started, there was, and there still is, a shortage of medical masks, the N95, across the world. His Excellency the President called industry and said, look, we need a made in Ghana solution for this global problem. If we don't solve it ourselves, we're on our own. I said face masks are interesting because it shows how a textile, normally managed by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, can become a medical device under the Ministry of Health with the Food and Drugs Authority being in charge. So when government said we were going to produce 3.6 million face masks, myself, I said, are they going to be just decorative pieces or health commodities? Clearly they are health commodities. So our sister agency, the Food and Drugs Authority, definitely also got involved. The Ministers of Trade and Industry were given the contracts to get this job done. Obviously, finance will pay for it. The Minister for Trade and Industry invited the CEO of the FDA, the CEO of the Standards Authority to meet the local manufacturers. And why is that exciting for me? For once, government is calling its technical agencies to meet industry. The first question was, what type of fabric will be suitable for face mask in Ghana? We did a lot of discussion, and in the end, it was agreed that it's going to be a cotton fabric, some various cotton blends. Then it was Standards Authority. These are the blends available together with your sister agency, the Food and Drugs Authority. Take it to your labs and tell us what will work. So we came to our labs over the weekend, did quite a bit of work. The Food and Drugs Authority did a sizable, in fact, the majority of the work. And we noticed that one, the quality of the material must meet Ghana standards. And I wouldn't bore your viewers on it. However, the Food and Drugs Authority eventually agreed that the most protective for both health personnel and the public will be not just one layer, but multiple layers. And in fact, this has been published. If you check My Joy online, and it should be available in several websites. Because we want you to produce it because they can protect consumers from spreading COVID. We want the ones which are medically protective to be produced for the medical personnel. They are not N95, but they are very, very comparable in terms of the protection they afford. Secondly, the guidelines from the FDA said the part touching your nose should be of material which has no dye. Because, the dyes, some of them are harmful, some can cause problems. But of course, the decorations or the part facing the public can be sexy, can be exciting. And look, you have seen the creativity of Ghanaians in coming up with face masks. The industry is producing, the textile manufacturers, those providing the fabric are working 24/7. The 5 companies are producing, but individuals are producing. And I don't know whether you are aware, but the demand for the stylish nose masks from Ghana has gone global. The issue now is that what are we doing, that is Standards Authority, by checking the textile quality, Food and Drugs Authority, government, to ensure that when quieter time comes and we are all comfortable with our situation, we can make this an industry for Southeast Asia, for North America, because for the next few years, face masks will be in vogue, at least every winter. And so this is when a crisis, as His Excellency the President said, has opened up a remarkable opportunity in an area where most of us really have barely put our mind to.
Let's get a bit practical so that the viewers would understand. So for instance, a seamstress or a tailor decides to make face mask with a fabric like your shirt. What has to go into it? What will show will be this fabric, but behind this fabric, what should be in it? Because my cameraman, for instance, has this face mask. It's just the fabric. I'm not seeing any lining. So let us understand.
It should be at least 3 ply. We say no, it should be 3 ply. Normally you have a plain fabric, then the material called stiff, usually in the middle, and then the one facing the public can be your designs. The other things are technical. You should be able to breathe. You shouldn't use starch material. Starch contains sugar. Sugar is going to cause trouble. Once you put a stiff in it, it's difficult. So some people prefer, that is for the general community, to have just 3 plain cotton, and the design before they sew. Now, when that has been done properly, washed and other things, then you can use it and reuse it, because that is also very, very important. It must cover the entire nose, because it's the nose and the face, so it's not just the mouth, because quite a lot of people are just putting it on the mouth. But if droplets are going to come from someone who potentially may have COVID-19, it is going to be from the nose. Of course, it's going to come from the mouth as well. So you should cover the nose and mask, leaving the eyes. Then you make sure it's held strongly. Then there are other things, and that is to the users. Make sure you don't touch the part going to your nose or mouth, because if your hands are dirty, they've touched something, and you touch it, it's like touching your face. Don't be pulling it to scratch and put your fingers in your nose or mouth, and all those practical things. And if possible, buy two. Because if you imagine you leave home at 9 o'clock to go and work, by 6 o'clock it will be hot, it will be humid, you would have touched it. So at some stage you can change it to a neat one, and always avoid touching the part which will touch your face. You can touch the outside, and in removing it, you pull it from the ears, put it down, wash it, and wash your hands.
Right now, a few weeks ago, the president, in fact, stated that the time to look within is now, because the whole world, several countries have shut down their borders to each other. So local production has been encouraged at this particular time. In terms of compliance, as the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, what have you observed? Are local industries complying to our standards, to the standards of the country?
I would say yes, but I would say that we are going to live in a very challenging times. And in these challenging times, both the Standards Authority and all other regulatory agencies in Ghana, Petroleum Authority, NCA, FDA, we all have to do business differently. Why are we saying so? Right now, if a Ghanaian company is producing a product, which according to the best available standards, you use a particular ingredient, if that ingredient is not available, what are the local alternatives that they have to use? When they use the local alternatives, they would have deviated from what would have been the best, the ultimate. But within both the spirit and the law, will that product still be comparable and give the same benefits? If the answer is yes, then we have to go ahead and use the local substitutes. If we are going to be so right-wing or so, all or none, then this country cannot innovate. So now is the time for innovation. Now is the time to be creative. We at the Ghana Standards Authority have said that in times like this, what we can take off as a burden from industry, we'll take. And here we are referring to companies who normally want to do their testing themselves, who want to do things. We are the best testing agency, or we want to be the best testing agency in Ghana. We want to be able to test anything which is testable because we set the standards. If somebody is producing electrical goods or water and wants to do the microbiology, that, we have opened ourselves now that we'll do it for you and charge for it. But what that helps is that you don't have to maintain that infrastructure in-house, and you can do more so that you don't also lay off your staff. So right now, I think the English used to call it job task sharing. And our job, regulators cannot do that, and they do not do that. So FDA will not test unless it's for internal purposes. But we as a Standards Authority, or the Food Research Institute or others, and this is where we should begin to see the dual purposes in our establishments. Even the universities should be sitting up and saying, wait a minute, what is Vortic doing, and which part of their business can we do more efficiently than them, so that they can focus on producing more water whilst we do this for them and get some money for it, and they also do more. And it's happened in so many industries in the past in developed countries. In Ghana, everybody was going alone. And I thank you and your producers for programs like this, because we need to make the Ghanaian industry community knows that Ghana's time is now. This is the time to make Ghana a mega industrial hub. Fortunately, we have a leader whose vision, interestingly, wonderfully, actually has come at the time, because I don't think for a moment that His Excellency the President knew that it was going to be COVID-19. But all the policies and the programs, the rapid industrialization agenda, for us, if we had not planned it, we would have had to plan it. So currently, if you look at the work the government wants to do, the one district, one factory, planting for food and jobs, if these things had not been planned because of COVID, so for us, for myself, for the government, for the Republic, for every Ghanaian, COVID is vindicating the programs and plans. And my call to all Ghanaians, because sometimes people say, oh, Ghana is full of politics. And I say, no. Ghana can sound political because that is how we do business. We talk a lot, but we don't fight. And indeed, the beauty about this country of ours is that no one stands at the extremes that go to any funeral and you meet people across board, go to any home and people support their various sheets. So what do we need to do for COVID? And I think I want to get practical and personal with Ghanaians. Food shortage globally is going to be the end thing. There will be no food. Several countries have banned the export of foodstuffs. Please get involved in agriculture. If you don't want to use the phrase planting for food and jobs, please just say you are getting involved in Operation Feed Yourself and your family. there will be money, a lot of money. And for my colleagues, the so-called middle class, this is the time for us to get into a break. As we sit now, our companies which require palm nuts, palm oil for their biscuits and other things, we used to import them. So now they don't have any because no one is, or rather the supply chain has been disrupted. Please go into palm nut, please go into yam, please go into rice. And here, please note, they will be sold and they will be bought regardless of, your color, your tribe, or any other consideration. And I think the time to begin these sort of national conversations is now. We see COVID-19 as the biggest opportunity in our lifetime to change the way we do business. And I would repeat what I've said on several platforms, that making money is a good thing. My belief when I wake up in my prayer is that Ghanaians should make money. Churches should tell us that, please look around, rear chickens, rear pigs, do this. But our job now as government agencies is to show you how that business can be sustainable. That business can meet local requirements and also go for export. If by now we are not thinking of capturing the 350 million dollar human being market, because we have 350 million people in West Africa, that is a big market. I have been around West Africa. Nobody does bottled water or sachet water better than Ghana. It's about time for us to help every single, and I repeat, every single Ghanaian producer to access those markets, because then they'll pay more taxes and we are all happy. It's about time for us actually to believe strongly. And my boss, the Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Alain Chamanti, is always on the rapid industrialization agenda. I would say it without any equivocation that we have to thank God for the leadership we have at this time, because the issues coming up are all like they've come together. The English would say they have coalesced at the same time. And in this time, if we don't move from just the talk to the action, but to do that, it's not just the government. Look, government will always have visions. They are big, they are flowery, they sound exciting. But to do them is hard work. And that hard work has to come from all Ghanaians, regardless of where you stand on any issue. Is it all right to produce more to sell? Your answer will be yes. Do we need ventilators? Your answer is yes. Do you need it from someone from one region or the other? No, we need it in Ghana. So I have gone around, I've spoken to the young chap at Academic City. He's doing a wonderful job. I didn't know him. Professor Fred Bagonlori. Professor Duma Samwa Tech has also come up with one. My call to both of them is, why don't you speak to each other? Because there will be no competition, because the market is too big. I am actually forcing them to talk. And I have said, I'm going to call the two of them and say, I know all of them. Why don't you work together? Because as a state agency, I can leverage my resources to bring them together. So my workers call me betweener. But that is what we want to do. We want to be trade promoters, trade facilitators.
You're watching International Trade Focus, and this is our in-depth segment. Our guest for today is the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Alex Dodo. We are discussing with him the role that the Ghana Standards Authority is playing to ensure that we are able to combat this COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be back shortly.
Your business concepts and investment must be harnessed through a hassle-free and highly thoughtful process to make them globally competitive. That is precisely the mission of the Ghana Free Zones Authority. Ghana Free Zones Authority packages Ghana's enabling business and investment environment with endless benefits. Total exemption from major taxes and levies for first 10 years. Talk to us now about our business oasis created all over the country, acres of industrial enclaves for all sectors. Our beneficiaries are in vibrant business, exporting finished and processed factory inputs all over the world. And what do our clients call us?
Partner.
Ghana Free Zones Authority, sharing good fortunes.
Here's innovation from Goyle that takes you further. New Gold Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goyle has innovated to stay ahead with expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goyle Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes Innovation that takes you further. Goil, good energy.
A warm welcome back. This is the in-depth segment of International Trade Focus. Professor Alex Dodo is the Director General of the Ghana Standards Authority and our guest for today. Everything that you said, clearly the Ghana Standards Authority is collaborating with local manufacturers in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. But when it comes to local manufacturing, one thing that the manufacturers talk about a lot is the capacity. The innovation is there, the intelligence is there and all of that, but they talk about capacity. So from your interactions or from your dealings with them, do you think that they will be able to meet the capacity, the demand? They'll be able to meet the demand for these things. Talk of PPEs, talk of hand sanitizers, talk of this gentleman that has come up with a solar hand washing machine. From your dealings with them, do they need resources from government, and how can the Ghana Standards Authority help to boost the capacity of local manufacturers?
Thank you very much for this question, because it goes at the heart of what we started discussing. For capacity, the issue has been that we have very limited capacity in this country. For young entrepreneurs, they put all their life saving into the one product that makes it. Unfortunately, we don't have what in America and Europe are called angel investors. They come in and put money into something, they don't care. They might lose the money, but they help. We have the national NEIP and other government initiatives. But globally, my experience is that, especially in developing countries, people are always thinking that government initiatives are only for a certain people whom you know. It's not so, but you can't shake that perception off at all, and I won't even try. But what I would say is that we have our banks, we have other people. What a GSA can do, and indeed what government will be doing, is that my mother ministry, the Ministry of Trade, but if you find it easier to come to us with the plans you have, come to us with the innovation. If there is a business coming, we should channel it to you and help you do the business. And when you mentioned the local capacity, I think the Minister of Trade said it, and we said this at the beginning of the interview. When we met the local people who were going to make the fabric, the biggest challenge was, where were they going to get the fabric from? So Volta, Joampo Textiles was there, Kosombo was there, GTP was there, were there, and they were told that, how much of this fabric can you produce? And who would you supply to? Because government has a contract. So yes, there will be a lot of hand-holding, but that hand-holding requires two things from everyone: good faith from government and good faith from the other side, that's industry. Because if government shows good faith and there's no reciprocity, then there's a problem. Conversely, if the trading community feels government is only giving it to one or two people rather than everyone, then there's also a problem. So we need good faith from both sides, and business will be sweet. I believe that as we all begin to focus on the facts, in fact, the president has said it, but then Ghanaians listen back quietly. The president, when we started discussing plans for food and jobs, said we want Ghanaians to have well-paid jobs. There's a big difference from having a job to having a well-paid job. If you are working where you cannot save and see that in 10 years I can save to build a house, to buy a car, to send my child to school, you are frustrated, because it's what we call hand to mouth. And then you find ways and means to make hand to mouth go far. But a well-paid job gives you enough security of income that you can focus on the job and be more productive. So if we are going to focus on that as Ghanaians, it starts from one thing: industries must make money, and they must produce at top end. For them to do that, they need workers who will not come and steal the ingredients. And we all know it. Anybody running business here know that you are selling frozen food, and by the end of the day, the dustbins are full of frozen food. Put there by your staff so that evening they pass around and take. We know these things. If you run a pharmacy, we call it pilferage or shrinkage. Workers can come in. It happens in hospitals. It happens everywhere. But now we Ghanaians, we are Christians and Muslims. So how come that when we go and work, we pay ourselves from the employer's kitty in addition to the payment he's giving us? These things are not helpful. So once we change that mindset and just say that, look, this business is where my future comes. My child's school fees is this business. I'm always telling my workers that when you delay a client, you are delaying their child's school fees. And when you delay their child's school fees, His Excellency will tell me to go home. That means that you're taking me to my children's school fees. So they say, hey, Prof, they be also school fees as them. But say school fees in Nigeria, Juma. Look, we are working for the sake of our families, our loved ones, our mothers, our parents. And every one of us is a breadwinner for a community. Please, let us expand our ability to win the bread. Let us make money. Let us talk about ways in which we can trade amongst ourselves as Ghanaians. Do business amongst ourselves. Let the word, when we wake up after the quiet time, let's say, what business can I do to make 2 cedis today? Because the more money changes hands, the more people make money. It's an interesting thing. And we can do it. What we, as Standards Authority, can do is that we will help you to meet the requirements. We will help you to cross over the line. And as you make the money and pay your taxes, we will get more salaries. That, for me, is the model for this country. In addition to the basic things we can do, His Excellency the President, indeed, it had been planned for the middle of March that the first vehicles to be assembled in Ghana were going to roll off the line. In the middle of March, we have the standards ready, and Corona came. So in the post-Corona era, which is this year, 2020, you see the rollout of assembled in Ghana vehicles. We all know the brands. Volkswagen is going to come, Toyota, Nissan, Sino-Hydro, and they are ready. We have the standards. We are doing the homologation of those things. So we are moving from agro-industry to value addition to, I'll call it medium tech, because we are not doing the full components. But now that we are doing ventilators as well in Ghana, we are doing solar dryers. I mean, industry is sweet. We want the young men in the universities to start thinking that, okay, street lights, what does it take to do street lights for a man who is rich and wants his wall to light up day and night so that he doesn't have to get up and do it? Do something, put the Ghana flag on it, fly the flag on it and sell to us. You know, now is the time for us really to begin to use my favorite phrase. My favorite phrase is always fly the flag. Let us fly the flag of Ghana for productivity. Let us fly the flag of Ghana to make money. I mean, let us literally, in these sad and anxious moments, put the Ghana flag on our walls and just tell ourselves that Ghana will make it. And when COVID is over, we will all be rich. I mean, I keep using the word rich because till the mindset changes that you can be rich. You know, please, it's a bad phrase. Say that nyami boa meye ye wejumum meye ye say maybe and some mighty miracle. The miracle is that I'm going to go into a business that will yield money. The miracle is that I'm going to look at a company producing vehicles and produce tie and dye for the seats. The miracle is going to be that I'm going to go to Standards Authority and say, this is my innovation. How can you make it better? The miracle is that I'm going to have a solar dustbin. When you say, pa, it will open. You know, look, there are things that you can make and sell. And then we can all go further. And I believe that the young people should realize that it's their time. We, the old men, can help you meet the requirements, but we are not creative. Our creative years are gone. We experience have shown us how to keep you from harm. But coming with new ideas, creative ideas, creating a new world, please, it's your world. And if you haven't heard it, please, you heard it from me. I tell my students every day that is your world. Because if a teacher teaches a student and the student doesn't become better than the teacher, then the teacher is not a good teacher. It means you only showed him part of the book. But when you show the whole book, the student will take what you have and add what God gave them and become better than you. And as your students become better or your children become better than you, society becomes better and better and better.
Prof, so you mentioned the production of ventilators locally. Which level of the production stage are we at currently? Are they ready to use?
So this is what happened. I saw the CTFM Bernard Able's coverage, and I contacted Bernard, and he linked me up to Professor Fred Baganlori. I saw what he had. I would say they are the parts of a ventilator, and all the parts are working. Are they ready for use? No, but they'll be ready in weeks once he gets them. Tech has one end-to-end the same. But in the process, we've also had offers from others who had, I would say, the parts and are willing to come in to assemble everything together. So what I told them is that why don't you talk to these professors so that with your technology from whichever country you're coming from and with their willingness and their young engineering students, second and third years, you come together so that we get these things in maybe 6 months. No, the target is 6 weeks rather than 6 months. And that is the time scale we are working at, 42 days, give or take a few weeks.
So, Prof, I know that you, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, you've assumed the optimist position. But Let's take a look at the negatives as well. Talking about the assembling plants and all of that of vehicles that have sort of might be put on hold a little bit because of this COVID-19 pandemic. What will you say are some of the negative aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic as far as the Ghana Standards Authority's operations is concerned?
We have lost our income calculation, by our calculation and by any businessman's calculation, you will lose 4 months of the year 2020 if the pandemic ends at the end of June. You would have lost at least 4 months. That is directly. But if you look at the impact of the 4 months, if you lose a customer now, you may not get that customer for another 1 year. Because if it's bread and sandwich, the man that stayed at home is learning to eat his kinky. You say, when I started eating my kinky, I'm saving, forget about this sandwich and bread. And then here, they've learned to do mashke, keep half in the fridge. People had to do things they never used to do. I mean, when was the last time any of us drank mash kinky? But now you do it and you say, let me keep it in the fridge because Corona time, you don't want to pour it away. Then in the evening, you come and taste it, say, wow, this is nice. I mean, how many of us have gone to the same bars and bought the same kebabs? So we have lost business and everybody will lose business. That is a negative side. The way we interact, hugging, holding hands, shaking, it will come back. Obviously, all our churches are dry, and I'm feeling sad. I pray for my priest that, hey, no collection, nobody's shaking Father. And so, Reverend Father, incense, if you sell incense or candle to we who are Anglicans and Catholics, tough choice. Holy water, see Monday, Thursday, we're going to go and do our oil. So you have all those issues. But then if you look at the big things, there'll be job losses. Everybody will have a relative who will lose a job. And you would have to feed that relative. So we have that to confront. People have told me I'm overly optimistic. I'm not overly optimistic. I'm practical. And the practicality is that without the disruption of COVID, Ghanaians would never have changed. Without COVID moving us completely from our comfort zone, we wouldn't be realizing that we are created to do face masks or ventilators. We had the ideas, but then we die with it. So COVID has made us realize that, look, and I'll say this slowly. If COVID hasn't caused us to think differently about ourselves and our country, and the fact that we can and should not rely on imported goods, especially those that we can produce ourselves, then we have failed as a nation. If COVID hasn't told us that the Republic of Ghana, with its citizens, have all the endowments it takes to take on the world, at least our world, West Africa, Africa, and make money, then we have failed. If we don't use COVID as a chance to change our institutions, then we have failed. After COVID, anybody who wants to do business as usual, may the good Lord give the ones so much unrest in their sleep and in their dreams that they'll wake up. No, because seriously, the backlog is going to be plenty. And we, the leaders, at any level of leadership, should realize that we have to clear the backlog faster. I mean, it's unfair for a student who would have been graduating this year to know whether she's going or she's coming. SS, WASI. Look, for someone who is 59 years and was due to retire next year, why any plan say, oh, my connections 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, COVID has taken 4 months. Maybe the man was just building, say, when I retire, I'll go to my retirement house, if he's from my part of town. Now, the man's retirement house, but what can we do to make business so fast in the next 8 months? In fact, my call and my challenge to every Ghanaian, and my plea is that let us run a 24-hour economy starting 1st July, by which time would have, things hopefully, prayerfully would have come to an end. If at that time we run, everybody is working twice a day, as in banks are working 16 hours, everybody would have run in another 6 months, would have run a 12-month economy. You would need extra hands to do that work. Things will move and your productive capacity will go up. And that is my call. I believe we can do it. I believe we have started with one of our labs, and I've told all my managers, get ready to run 3 shifts. Get ready to run 3 shifts. Let us see ourselves as a 24-hour society because of COVID. And let us use that rather to expand the need for more human hands at work. In some countries, they even have nightclubs during the day. Why can't you have a bank at night? Why can't you have church services all week round so that those who are working on Sunday can go anytime and that the priest will not keep people from work? So let us change. But I am begging, we should run at least a double economy starting from 1st July so that people who have been out of jobs, they too, they will do, and that we can all move on nicely.
Talking about 1st July, you know that the Continental Free Trade, if everything goes well, trading under it should commence on the 1st of July. COVID-19 has set in, but you are saying that this can be a blessing in disguise for Ghanaians or for Ghana. Why do you say so?
In fact, it's also a blessing for Africa. It's also a blessing for Africa. The Continental Free Trade Area was saying that if you look at Africa, population 1.2 billion. Intra-Africa trade, intra-Africa to Africa, was only 4%, 10%, 14%. It's small. In fact, it's less than 10, but you make it 14. The figures are, based on who you talk to. And yes, we trade with other places. COVID, you can't take a ship. In fact, now the ship sailing matter. Now we are realizing that if our trading was with Togo, there'll be no disruptions. There'll be some border controls, but there'll be no disruption. But if you see ECOWAS as one country, if we had been seeing it as planned, then we have all been in one country of 350 million people, and we trade amongst ourselves, and our borders will be outside ECOWAS. So COVID has made us realize that if we had been trading amongst ourselves, we wouldn't need any help. And let me give just one example. In the wake of COVID, India and China banned the export of certain things. In the case of India, 26 medicines, including paracetamol and the ingredients to make them. They are the active, pharmaceutical ingredients, as well as antibiotics and vitamins. Now, when COVID is over, you are going back there without having realized that when the rain was falling, they took the umbrella away. Now that the sun is shining, it says get the umbrella. That will not be smart business. So COVID has exposed us that if we trade amongst ourselves in times of need, like it or not, a Ghanaian, how many Ghanaians in Western region are not related to people on the other side in Cote d'Ivoire? How many people in Volta region don't have relatives across the wall? So we have noticed that we are one, and we are in this together. And if we are going to die, we will die together. So why don't we become prosperous together? The time for Africa's prosperity is now. And that is opportunity. But that opportunity needs hope. We now need to tell GUTA members, Charlie Bemba, why don't you go to Cote d'Ivoire and create business so that you import there and export there? Now's the time to tell GUTA members, say, Namudu Muska, taking your money to China, India, Hong Kong, Singapore, for things that you can get in Ghana. Then whose factory do you want your child to work? Because all of us have children and they need jobs. But for them to work in the factory must sell. But if I want my child to work in a factory, but that same factory, let's say I want my child to work in Tropical Cable, for instance, or Railroad, or any of the made in Ghana cables, but I'm importing cables from somewhere to sell. Where should those companies sell their cable for my child to get a chance to join that business? So we should realize that buying made in Ghana, eating made in Ghana, doing made in Ghana, and doing Ghana is actually good for us, our children, and our heritage. And then when we've done that, Ghana should take over the continent. We have softly, but we should say it openly. Ghana does good business. Ghana is reasonably well organized. Ghana can service Nigeria with Nigeria's permission and support. And they are brothers. And the beauty of that relationship is that Nigeria is a big brother who is willing to use Ghana for as long as Ghana does the right things. And so many things Nigeria has worked with us in wonderful ways. Everyone says, I am half Nigerian. I say, yes, because I like the aggressiveness in Nigeria and the fact that when you work with them, because they have a bigger economy, we're also bigger. So as you know, our president and their president are brothers. And that is the sort of things we should do. So how do you then make this into a proper trading arrangement whereby we won't close their shops here and they will also harass our people there? You see, we need to think Africa. And that means that we start working together. In Ghana, because we are well organized, we will then, in a very subtle way, be the small brother who works so hard that everybody buys from him, that he is rich, but he's quiet. And then the likes of Nigeria and South Africa can be the big brothers with the big monies and looking for seats on the UN Secretary, UN General Assembly, in which we would support them and the like. But we are going to a new world, and that new world comes with opportunities. If we don't take the opportunities, we'll be wiped off.
So, Prof, one thing that you are passionate about, clearly, it's part of what you do, is that although we are advocating for local production, to increase local production, all of that, especially during these times, it does not mean that anything can be put on the market. I know that the Ghana Standards Authority, together with the Food and Drugs Authority, check to make sure that all products produced and put on the market meet the requirements. So during these times, you've touched on it briefly, what exactly are you doing to ensure that there's some sort of fast track in certification and also to ensure that all locally manufactured goods meet the standards? I mean, someone can be hiding somewhere, producing hand sanitizers, for instance, face masks, for instance, without necessarily meeting these requirements. What are you doing differently?
I'll take it from the hand sanitizers first and come to GSE. So the first thing you ask yourself is that when there's shortage of water, people tend to drink anything. And I'm sure most of us have seen it on social media. The Food and Drugs Authority said we are going to register hand sanitizers by checking their quality, and we'll do it in 24 hours. And I think the charge is very low, and they've been doing it non-stop. And within 24 to 48 hours, it's registered and it's published. So on social media, there are lots of lists of names of approved, and it's good. Coming to Ghana Standards Authority, one, we said our consumer protection role should continue. So we never stop work. We work 24/7, even during the lockdown. We were at the ports, we went to the filling stations, the petrol stations, because we said people shouldn't think that because it is lockdown time, they'll be doing their own thing. And those who made errors, we find them. But then we said our certification. Why don't we, in line with international best practice, now move away from the routine to what we call a risk-based approach? So now what we are doing is that if there are big companies that we have been certifying, we are doing it upfront and up quick and literally in no time, in zero time. I'm going to say zero time. From the application to your receipt, it's probably like a week. And then we come there later to do the surveillance audit to be sure that nothing has changed since we last gave you the license. So we will change all that so that we can focus on the small emerging ones and help them. So for companies who are certified with us, please note, and you'll be hearing more about it in the coming days, we are no longer going the rigid way, test, inspect every time. If you've been working with us and you have a good track record, we are fast tracking it so that your business can continue with certainty, because we don't want us to be part of the delay. I mean, in the post-COVID world, we want to be seen to have been a help rather than a hindrance to you. So from our part, certification will not be a barrier to your business. What other businesses? Those who have come for calibration, and we have been quiet about it. But the Ghana Health Service brought all the scanners, the thermal scanners for us to check. Because if you are using a thermometer and it has not been calibrated and it gives you the wrong reading, then your temperature may be high and you think it's low, or vice versa. So they've all brought it. We know there are a lot being sold which have not been calibrated, but sometimes you draw the line. For as long as those ones have been approved by the Food and Drugs Authority, that means that we can trust the confidence, because that process is rigorous enough and is good enough.
So, Prof, finally, as we've increased local production, do you see some export opportunities for Ghana, and in which sectors?
I see a lot of export opportunities for Ghana, but they have to be creative export opportunities. Nigeria is opening its borders to us, not the land border, but the sea border. But the cost of shipping things from Ghana to Nigeria is more than the cost of shipping from Ghana to China. So Ghana Shippers Authority, Freight Forwarders Association, the logistics companies, what can you help us in the post-COVID era to ensure that shipping from Ghana to Nigeria costs just a quarter of what it costs to ship to Europe? That way, if you look at the things we produce in Ghana that can go to Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, I mean the countries which have been banned them, like Nigeria has banned import of fruit juice. But we are producing fruit juice. We are producing bottled water, cement, iron rods. We have the various iron rods company, roofing sheets. As you go to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, even Nigeria, aluminium products, electrical cables. We do have a range. Chemicals. People export chemicals from here as far as Cameroon, Niger, Mali, Burkina. So it's the only way business is going to move is that the producers should produce, but there should be a logistics company looking at moving the product from A to B. And this is where our traders used to do, but there was no clear logistics, and the whole world has shifted because the disruption in travel, because don't forget that people travel with goods. So normally people say goods and services and people, because if you look at border control and everything, it's about letting goods, services, and people move very, very quick. Now that we are saying people shouldn't move, but goods should move, the opportunity is that we can export, and we need to export, but we need to find creative and very clever ways. In this era, how easy to get a letter of credit from a bank in Nigeria for goods you want to supply? And if there is none, would the Nigerian High Commission be giving us bonds that if you supply to these companies in Nigeria, we are ensuring that they will pay, so that if there's any dispute, and is the Ghanaian High Commission here or there, also doing it vice versa. So we need different ways of doing business. And those different ways should include the financing, the logistics, the products and the services. And for us to really say in West Africa, what do I have in country A, that country B needs, that I can send through an intermediary, which could be either through a government side, a businessman, or any other arrangement.
Thank you very much, Professor Alex Dodo. Thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Professor Alex Dodo was our guest for today. We discussed the role that the Ghana Standards Authority is playing to support government's agenda in combating or containing the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be back shortly.